If you subscribe to this channel, then you know that the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix of 2021 was fixed. Of course, we get the people in the comment section that have got a mental disorder that wish to come here to detract and to argue because that's how they get off. That's how they spend their sad little lives. But the fact is, it was a fraudulent event, as the videos in this channel present. Now, one of the things that we've never been presented with is when you look at it the other way round, you'll realise just how glaring some things really are. In Abu Dhabi 2021, on lap 53 for the leaders, those on the lead lap, they were on lap 53. Lewis Hamilton was almost 12 seconds ahead of Max Verstappen. This is the tracker view graphic of the relative locations of the cars at just prior to the incident. So you've got Mick Schumacher and Latifi coming round turn 13. He's about to crash at 14. And the locations of the cars at that stage: Hamilton having lapped, and say having lapped, Norris, but Norris suffered that slow puncture apparently, so had to pit from fifth, wasn't lapped, but had to go into the pits for a tyre change, which then put him back out on track behind the leader, making him then lapped at that stage. But Norris was on fresher tyres, trying to regain positions in that race. At this stage, he came back out in 10th, overtook Ocon, overtook Alonso, leaving Norris here. Norris was then trying to track down Gasly and Tsunoda so that he could get 6th in that race, and at that stage in his career, secure his highest finishing position in the World Championship. That's what he was seeking to do. That's what he was on course to do prior to that slow puncture. Anyway, look at the situation between first and second. Hamilton, Verstappen. You've got 3 cars in between them. 3 cars that the leader Hamilton had lapped, yet Verstappen hadn't. So Hamilton had passed up to 8th position in that race. Verstappen had only passed up to 11th position in that race. Okay, so that's the way it was. We are then given the 4 laps of lies from Martin Brundle and David Croft to present to us, oh, what jeopardy. What's going to happen now, kiddies? Stay on the edge of your seat. There's bound to be a couple of laps here. And as the situation was unfolding, okay, as Nicholas Latifi's front left brake disc caught fire and they had to deploy a fire extinguisher, ruining their entire plans, we then get Brundle convert to the new narrative of, oh, when will they let the lap runners through? I'm not sure it's mandatory, but it's normally on a wet day where they won't. And if they do let the lap runners through, how long will they wait? Will they let the lap runners through? I'm not sure it's mandatory. They'll all get blue flags. That's what we were getting from the so-called experts of the sport, lying to us about what is possible and what isn't. Now, the simple reason, as I've explained many times, is when you intervene in a race due to a safety concern, racing gets neutralised. And the only way you can resume that sporting contest is by resetting the conditions for everybody. And that reset of those conditions involves forming the field up in the correct race order with all of the previously built up advantages wiped out between all competitors. It applies across the board to all competitors who qualify to meet that criteria. I say who qualify, it's because if during that safety car period you, as that unfolds, get yourself lapped, then effectively you've done that to yourself and you are causing a prolonging of that safety car period, and that becomes then your penalty for doing so. You don't get the opportunity to be released and to regain that time and reform upon the back of the pack to reform that first to last remaining competitor running order to reset the condition for all competitors. All right, but providing you meet the criteria to enable that, then that is what must take place. You're all familiar with this notion of nobody wants to see these lapped cars interfering with the race between the leader. Yeah, you all agree with that one. But what's interfering with the race between Norris and Gasly here? See, Norris in 8th position at this moment in time wants to be able to race 7th position Gasly. We shouldn't allow Nicholas Latifi crashing to impact Lando Norris's chance in the World Championship at this stage, because as the safety car unfolds, it ends up on lap 57 in this scenario. There's Norris tucked up behind the leader who's behind the safety car. Pierre Gasly, who was only just up the road from Norris previous to Latifi crashing, well, he's disappeared off all the way around the track and is now at the back of the safety car snake. That's not fair. That's ruined Norris's chances. Hence, you carry out that mandatory procedure. Now, here's a key. If you look at the two scenarios, prior to Latifi crashing, there were 3 cars in between first and second: Norris, Alonso, and Ocon. Then Red Bull play some clever cards. Now there's 5 cars in between Hamilton and Verstappen. What's the significance of this? In Formula One racing, when you have a snake of cars in a safety car snake, there is approximately half a second to a second between each competitor. So although the field is bunched up, you are still behind other cars that you're not allowed to pass until that start-finish line. Whether you're racing them, well, that's the only option, because this notion of blue flags was a made-up fallacy. Okay, but you are behind these cars. So, present situation that Brundle and Crofty are pretending, and they are pretending, that you can go racing like this with these lapped cars left here, which you categorically cannot, due to how it impacts the races of these cars in this that are left now stranded, well behind the cars they were previously in a fight with. Okay, but assuming half to 1 second in between each of these competitors, half a second behind him, that makes him 1 second behind. Half a second behind him, 1.5. Half a second behind him, 2 seconds. So already, Leclerc here, with 3 cars in between him and Hamilton, on the road is at least 2 seconds behind Hamilton. At least 2 seconds behind Hamilton. Beyond Leclerc, Vettel, at least 2.5 seconds back. Verstappen, at least 3 seconds back. Okay, so as and when, if you attempted to restart like this, Lewis Hamilton would be at least 3 seconds ahead of Max Verstappen when they crossed the start-finish line to resume a racing lap. You can't go racing like that. It's a completely invalid scenario. I'm just following this through to demonstrate to you that it's a completely invalid scenario. So Max Verstappen would have been 3 seconds back. At this stage, with just 3 lapped cars in situ, half a second, 1 second, 1.5 seconds, 2 seconds. So, in this situation, if they don't release the lapped cars and they all get blue flags, Max Verstappen is just 2 seconds behind. In this scenario, having pitted and cars that Max had previously lapped not pitted and remain on track, hence unlapping themselves, because at this point in time now, Leclerc and Vettel are no longer lapped to Verstappen. Hamilton lapped them all. Okay, these two unlapped themselves from Verstappen. But what that's meant is Max on the road is at least a further second back from where he was prior to what the bunch would have been otherwise. Are you trying to tell me that in one lap a car starts 3 seconds behind another car and is able to catch it by 3 seconds in one lap and overtake it in that same lap? Catch and overtake a car that you are 3 seconds behind at the start of a lap. You think that's really possible? I'm telling you that in those conditions, it's not. It's not. But again, this is the lies that the sport gives you. It's not possible. It's a totally invalid situation. So always hold on to that. What I'm taking you through is just following through on the lie that they presented to you and demonstrating to you, well, if you believe that lie, this just shows you how ridiculous that lie is. You categorically cannot resume racing like this, which is how Brundle and Crofty were pretending to you they could. And the notice from FIA Race Control, lapped cars will not be allowed to overtake, which means Max has a lot to do. They'll all get blue flags, regardless of whether these cars have just got to move out of the way or not, which is invalid. Max is still 3 seconds behind. You aren't catching. Naturally, when you are coming through a field of back markers, you will tend to make these passes on the straights. And when you get to corners, then the cars that are getting the blue flags, they still tend to take a racing line around corners and just move out of the way on the straights. That's how they tend to operate. Unless you're Liam Lawson at Brazil 2024, obviously, it just waves a car that's not lapping you, just from the sister team, just waves you by when you're performing a masterclass. But don't worry about that one. We're talking about Abu Dhabi 2021 here. So, completely invalid. But again, the way that who explores that notion? Who explored the clever cards of Red Bull pitting their driver, losing further track position, and then what they did being validated? Oh, we'll just get them 5 out of the way so Max can be on the back of Lewis. What we won't do is get Daniel Ricciardo and Lance Stroll out of the way of Carlos Sainz, so Carlos Sainz in 3rd place in the Ferrari can be right on the back of 2nd place Max Verstappen to challenge for 2nd place in that race. We won't do that. See, they don't talk about that, do they? They don't talk about that. That's not important. What we wanted to manufacture for you was a duel, just a 2-car shootout, just between the 2 championship contenders. No, you can't do that. You can't do that. If we decide now who are the championship contenders, oh, the championship contenders are just Oscar and Lando. So in every Grand Prix now, between now and the end of the season, what we'll do, we'll just ignore the other competitors. We'll just set off Oscar and Lando to see who wins out of them two over one lap as a shootout. Oh, that's not a Grand Prix, is it? No. No, a Grand Prix is contested by all competitors performing the Grand Prix distance or as close to as possible. And all them competitors are subject to the same conditions. Sport in fairness is afforded to them all. They're all enabled to compete for positions, not just 2 separated out. Not just 2 separated out. But think about that. The lies that Brundle and Crofty were telling you about these 5 cars being in situ. Nobody talks about the bad decision, if that were possible. When teams are making their pit strategy calls, when has it ever been mentioned on the television by the sports commentators, oh, the decision as to whether they're going to be pitting Max now is Max's track position? Because if they pit Max now and he goes behind Ricciardo and Leclerc, he'll come out now with 5 cars in between him and Hamilton. And if they elect not to release the lapped cars on the restart, Max will now be in a worse position having pitted. Who said that? Have you ever heard that? Oh, it's a no-brainer, isn't it? It's a no-brainer that you pit under safety car for fresh tyres. Or is it a consideration that you go, oh, well, if I do pit and I lose track position to them, then I'll be even further back on the restart. If they choose it to be a wet day in Belgium where they freestyle the regulations, the optional ones, which don't say that they're mandatory, them, which you're lying about, which skew outcomes if you apply them that way. Which of the commentators, which of anybody in the sport have gone, well, actually, it's a bad decision to pit at this stage because it brings you out here a further 2 cars back and at least a further second back on any kind of restart. Who has said that? And the answer is nobody. And the reason it's nobody is because it's not even possible. So, unravel the lies. You know, we know we're going to get the strap-on wank boy. Tell us what they think in the comments section, okay? Ignore what they think. They are retarded fanatics. Sadly, in this world, we have people, humans, who conduct themselves like that, okay? This is what we refer to as human nature, okay? Some people are just categorically see you next Tuesdays in this world. And we are encouraged to be tolerant of one another. And we shouldn't be. Because what happens is the see you next Tuesdays of this world that people then don't stand up to are the ones that people become tolerant of as they rise to positions of power and impose their will, that then we are expected to tolerate. And they're exactly the type of people that good people need to be taking down. So, do not tolerate these fools. The only reason they're left here is for specific reasons which will become clear at some stage. Don't engage these fools. Don't tolerate these fools. You tolerate people that are evil and you see what happens in this world, what we're currently seeing in this world. Those people with evil intentions, who are greedy, who are narcissistic, who don't give a shit about humankind, ascend to positions of power, negatively impacting people's lives. Quite happy to ride roughshod over your existence and the existence of anybody who you care about for their own selfish desires, their own selfish agenda. This is why we need to overcome these evil forces in this world. It's not about opinion, it's about what's right. It's about what is right. We have all been lied to by those with an agenda, by those who made significant sums of money by doing what they did. Many people are willing to be mercenaries, take money for performing their role in defrauding us. That will never be okay. Thank you for your time.